Every single
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rotary Club of LaGrange on Wednesday, April 12th, 2023. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation to be given by Jeff Wright.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, we are thankful for this day that you have given us, for its blessings, its opportunities, its challenges. May we appreciate and use each day that comes to us. We pray for strength and guidance for each day as it comes, for each day's duties, for each day's problems. May we be challenged to give our best always, and may we be assured of your presence with us. Amen.
Thank you, Jeff. And Scott will come introduce our guest.
Good Wednesday afternoon, everybody. I've got a long list of guests, so certainly it's my pleasure to introduce these guests. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing until all have been introduced. Like I say, it's a long list. First off, Patrick Cruz, guest of the club, chairman of our county commissioners. Ellis Cadenhead, also county commissioner, guest of the club. Lewis Davis, guest of the club, county commissioner. Jimmy McCamey, county commissioner, guest of the club. Eric Mosley is our county manager, guest of the club. James Emery is our county engineer and guest of the club. Representative Vance Smith, part of our state legislature. James Goodlett, guest of Jake Jones, as our pastor at First Presbyterian Church. Jamie Jackson, also a guest of Jake Jones with Talent Connect. Stuart Countess, guest of the club, president and CEO of KMMG. Jim Arrington, a guest of Willie Edmondson and hopefully a future member with Arrington Builders. Dennis McIntyre, guest of the club with Georgia Department of Transportation. Debbie Butner, guest of the club, also a member of our state legislature. Nathan Gaskin, guest of the club, our city council member. And David Jenkins, guest of the club, also part of our state legislature. Hopefully I got everybody.
Welcome, all of you. Well, I do birthdays and anniversaries. If you need to get more tea, another piece of cake, a little piece of lamb, feel free. Birthdays today, this week. Joe Ragland was yesterday. Barbara Hennigan is today. Happy birthday. Gonna do her a favor and not sing. Luther Jones is Friday and Kim Pope is Sunday. Club member anniversaries. Kaylin Link is one week today. Happy anniversary, Kaylin. Wedding anniversaries have Brett and Kimberly Jones 8 years today. One announcement, next week we will have our board meeting. We do have a few minutes for anybody that's really happy, but you have to express it in 30 seconds or less. So if you have a dollar and you're happy, come on up.
I have a happy dollar, thank you, Ken. I see a lot of folks that support the Boy Scouts in this room. I see a lot of folks that like barbecue in this room. And it happens to be that I have tickets for barbecue luncheon to support the Boy Scouts this Sunday across the street from First Methodist Church by the Waffle House parking lot. All the proceeds for this sloppy pig barbecue lunch support the Troop 20 out of First Methodist Church. So I got some tickets. If you want to see me after the meeting, I will be glad to set you up. Thank you, Bruce.
Saturday, 9 o'clock, opening day, Miracle League. We have 40 athletes, even coming from Alabama. It'll be an experience that you will remember the rest of your life. We encourage you to come. We have games all morning long.
We had a little hiccup and a little birth. Now all that's over. My daughter Katie is a bouncy baby girl.
We all did well. That was probably owe you some money back on that, being so brief. I'm going to ask Jake Jones to come on up and start the program going.
Thank you, President Ken. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dennis McIntyre to our Rotary Club. Dennis was elected to the board of the Georgia Department of Transportation March the 1st, 2022. He represents the 3rd Congressional District and is elected by the state legislators whose districts are in the 3rd Congressional District. Prior to serving on the GDOT board, Dennis was the general manager for Union Utilities. He was responsible for the management of all organizational departments, including electrical and water operations, public relations, and finance. In April 2022, Dennis retired from the Union Utilities operation after 33 years in his role. Dennis grew up in Rome, Georgia, graduated from the University of Georgia. He serves on the Georgia Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, the Heritage School Board of Trustees, and is a member of the Union Rotary Club as a past president. So you understand all this stuff. He and his wife Sally have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. Please welcome Dennis McIntyre, who will introduce our mission and promote.
Thank you, Jake, and thank you for allowing me to be here today. It's an honor to serve as the 3rd Congressional board member representing the Troop and the other counties in the 3rd Congressional District, the GDOT. And it's my pleasure to introduce my friend and a great man, Russell McMurray, who is the GDOT commissioner that will be our speaker today. In his role as commissioner of GDOT, he has responsibility for the 10th largest highway system in the nation. A $4 billion budget, 3,800 staff, thousands of other contractors that spend their careers building and maintaining our roads. He started as an employee of GDOT in 1990 as an engineering intern after he graduated from Georgia Southern University. He worked his way through the ranks to become the chief engineer. He was appointed by Governor Deal to be the planning director, and I think probably the shortest tenure planning director. Did you even make it out of the parking lot in that? After he was sworn in as planning director, the GDOT board immediately made him the commissioner in 2015. He's very active nationally and within the state with all kinds of industry relationships. He's currently the Secretary Treasurer of the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. He's the chair of Council on Highways and Streets. He's a member of the Strategic Management Committee. He's a board member of the National Academy of the Sciences Transportation Research Board. He's a member of the Atlanta Transit Link Authority. He's a board member of MARTA. He's a board member of the State Road and Tollway Authority. He's a member of the College of Engineering and Information Technology Corporate Advisory Commission at Georgia Southern University. He's a member of the University of Georgia College of Engineering Advisory Board. He has been recognized as numerous accolades. He was the 2018 Georgia Trends Georgian of the Year. He's consistently included in Georgia Trends 100 Most Influential Georgians. He was also named in Atlanta Magazine's Most Powerful Leaders. And the list goes on, but I think you get my point that he is, has a large responsibility, has been recognized for the work that he does. I trust that you will enjoy listening to him make his presentation today as much as I always do when he speaks. And I present to you Commissioner Russell McMurray.
Thank you so much, Dennis. You read the full obituary. So it's really an honor to be with you. And one, I want to say thank you to the Rotary Club for what you guys do. It is important what you do to give back to your community, which is a wonderful community here in Troup County and LaGrange and the whole area. It's a beautiful day not to be in Atlanta. I am looking at the golf course and realize that you just had a full meal. So I'll try to be brief, but thorough in some conversation. And it really is a pleasure to be here and see so many friends here in the audience as well. You have great representation in the House and Senate, I can tell you that. And Dennis has the opportunity who they elect to be the liaison back and forth with Department. Vance and I were just talking about that. That is the job. And I can tell you, I don't know what's best for Troup County and LaGrange sitting up in Atlanta across from the varsity, if you know where the varsity is on North Avenue. And so I learned that from some guy named Vance Smith long ago. It's all about the people out here. And so I had certainly a privilege for working with Vance, and I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Vance in this role. So I want to say thank you to Vance Smith, who's a dear friend. My goal today is to just sort of give you some sort of the state of the world as it relates to transportation. You could win a Jeopardy category maybe if you pay close attention. I want to talk a little bit about the great things that are going on here in Georgia that I affectionately call a growing Georgia. Then I want to talk a little bit more in detail about what's going on here locally, closer here in Troup County, and some things to look forward to as it relates to transportation. And then give you just a few updates of some projects that you may be seeing out there as you drive around today, and things that are on the horizon to come up that you can anticipate in some timelines. So let's start with sort of the state of transportation. I've been calling this talk for about a year now. I've been quoting Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. You guys remember that? The famous line from The Tale of Two Cities we all remember is the best of times is the, right, that's all I remember out of high school. So, but I go back to that best of times and worst of times. So let's talk about the best of times. Because let's be positive, right? I'll have to put $1 in later and be excited and happy about the best of times. Well, funding at transportation at the national level is truly the highest level of federal transportation funding ever. If you've paid attention to the news a little bit at the national news level, there was something called the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law that passed about 2 years ago. Congress and the president signed it a little over a year ago now, which was truly the largest infrastructure investment federally in our nation's history at $1.2 trillion. I have to think about saying trillion, $1.2 trillion. About 45% of the $1.2 trillion is dedicated and focused in the transportation sector, which is amazing. Now, what's misunderstood about the bipartisan infrastructure law is that it seemed like all new money. It really is not all new money. It was a reauthorization of a 5-year transportation bill. And I'm looking at this room, and some of you know what I'm going to say. If you remember, if you're a certain age, there was a Saturday morning cartoon called Schoolhouse Rock, and they had a little bill sitting on Capitol Hill. For all you younger people, YouTube that. So they passed a 5-year transportation bill, okay? Don't do it now. But there's a 5-year transportation bill, and really what the bipartisan infrastructure law did was add more money to it and create some new federal programs. Unfortunately, as good as that is, the federal government doesn't send Georgia a big old check and says, here's your money, spend it wisely. There's lots of nuances and buckets, funding buckets that we all have to work our way through. But that is truly great news because it was about a 21% increase in funding of what we had in the previous federal level. And then there's an increase of about 2% per year over the 5 years, which gets you close to 30% more funding over 5 years than we had from the previous 5 years. Okay, so that's significant. 21%, 22% a year, 2% a year is significant increases. I want you to remember that number, 21%. So that's great. All right, so best of times, back to Charles Dickens, best of times. Best of times at the state level, and I can't say enough to our House members and our Senate members in the Georgia General Assembly for going along with the governor's budget, which fully funded GDOT when the gas tax had been suspended for over a year. That's how we get funded. When you buy gas, that's how we get funded. And if that had not happened, you would have a different speaker here today. I would be asking if you'd like a car at Walmart or something like that. Because there was a big gap to be filled. Our state budget is about $2 billion, a little over $2 billion a year. And almost all of probably 95 to 97% of that, it all comes from excise tax when we buy gas. And so that's the best of times for sure, that the fiscal conservatives of the state, tremendous revenues that we had in the state's budget, gave the House and the Senate comfort that they could fulfill the promise of transportation projects going forward. The other thing I add, because we're unlike other states, when we do contracts with contractors, you see people working out there, consultants, or whoever we're contracting for, when we sign a contract, we have to have all the money in the bank to fulfill that contract. We do not cash flow these contracts. So we never have to worry if the spigot was to be turned off, everything that we have underway could be completed. And so that's a really nice thing, again, very conservative from a funding point of view. So those are truly best of times. Now let me flip to the Charles Dickens worst of times. I don't know if you've noticed in Troup County and LaGrange, but everything costs a little bit more. Is that true? Yeah, everything costs more, starting with property, because we bought almost 1,600 parcels of property last year to do projects that we need to do. And everybody's land values seem to escalate. Obviously, material costs, supply costs, all those things have continued to rise. And I sort of want to give some perspective, because people are like, well, why can't you do this and why can't you do that? Give you a little bit of perspective of what things cost. Just to resurface the 2-lane highway now is about $382,000 a mile for the 2 lanes. Better said, let's say we got a stack of 20s here. 20, 40, 60, we'll throw a 10 in and $2, $72 a foot to resurface a road. Think about that far, $72. If you're doing a 2-lane to 4-lane widening project, we might have one of those nearby there, where we're expanding the roadway. The average cost in a rural area is around $9 million a mile, up to $18 million a mile in a very urban area. So Hamilton Road, I have to go back and do the math on that. It was pretty expensive on a per mile basis. So that's sort of the cost of doing the project. Simple bridges, replacing a county bridge is $2 to $3 million a bridge. State route bridges are about $7 million a bridge, sort of average out to about $5 million to replace a bridge. A new interchange on the interstate. Those are sort of rare and sort of interesting. The closest one to you was Popular Road up in Coweta County, is a new interchange. $80 to $100 million. Those used to be about $40 million not many years ago. So they have really escalated. So that's sort of the worst of times. And if you want to widen the interstate, let's just close up to the middle, it's about $18 million a month. So you can see the scale of cost are really just crazy. Our average low bid, so we bid our work competitively on a monthly basis, and we take the lowest responsible bid if we can accept it. Those have been averaging 23% higher than what we budgeted for. Now, remember that federal number I gave you? You said remember 21%? So you can see that the cost of doing business is keeping pace with this bipartisan infrastructure law and state funding, which is fantastic because we're not having to say we can't do that project, we can't do this project. we're able to keep pace. It hadn't quite done the fulfillment of what we thought it would do, was the increase in the federal funding, which would continue to advance more projects, but we certainly are keeping pace, which is a very, very important thing. So that's sort of the state of the Charles Dickens Tale of Two Cities, the best of times, worst of times. And I would say, again, at the state level, best of times, to be able to be fully budgeted and keep things moving forward that we need to do, because we are a growing Georgia. I mean, just face it, our population in Georgia is supposed to grow by 29% by the year 2050. Now, 2050 sounds like a long time off, but I remember partying like it's 1999. You may too. And then you worried about 2000 if your fax machine was going to work, right? That doesn't seem like that long ago, folks. But 2050 is 27 years away. It'll be here before you know it. 29% growth in Georgia, and in Metro Atlanta. And I know you're not Metro Atlanta. Metro Atlanta is supposed to grow by about 3 million people. Who's been to Nashville, Tennessee? Fun place, right? Metropolitan Nashville is only 1.3 million. So think about putting 2 Nashvilles in Metro Atlanta by the year 2050. And I got a feeling, on a day like today, with a beautiful lake, a beautiful golf course, people are going to find Troup County as well. Because you can expect population growth for sure. So with population becomes jobs. In fact, when we look at 2050, and especially the Three Rivers Regional Commission, which you remember, is expected about a 25% growth in jobs by 2050. So population and jobs driver. I call it the population driver. Population drives so many things. That's jobs. So that's 41,000 more jobs in the Three Rivers Regional Commission. So think about that. That's a lot of jobs. I think you're all hiring, right? I know you are. So we're all hiring. So a fantastic opportunity. As I said, population drives many things. It drives the need for food, because we love to eat. And it drives the need for stuff. If you're like me, I have a lot of stuff in my house. And we get more and more stuff every day, because who doesn't like to order on these things and expect it on your doorstep in a day or less, maybe 2 days if you're not in a hurry, right? It's really changed things, and it's really a big impact of what this means. So the growth in agribusiness by 2050 is to grow by about 43%. Agribusinesses are still #1 country. I think e-mobility and vehicle manufacturing is closing in very quick, but agribusiness is still our #1 economy. Manufacturing, again, tremendous. Georgia has been tremendous in manufacturing, landing good manufacturing jobs and growing new manufacturing jobs. The growth in manufacturing by 2050 is by tonnage. How many things are produced is poised to grow by 77%. Think about that. That's huge. Well, again, we like stuff, and warehouse distribution centers have to get near all of us. Has there been any issue or controversy about a warehouse distribution center going in anywhere near any of you? Everybody's good? Nobody's had that issue yet? Just hang on. One of these days, there's going to be warehouse distribution centers somewhere near you. Because for e-commerce, they like to be within the, quote, the last mile, that they can get stuff to you very quickly. And right now, you can get around LaGrange and Troup County pretty easily from the interstate. So some of that's, how some of that warehouse distribution's there. But the last mile is really about 7.2 miles, is how far sort of the vans run around to make trips. And so you'll see more and more of that pressure. We're hearing more and more, especially around the suburbs and exurbs of Atlanta. Oh, they're putting a warehouse over near my neighborhood. It's like, yeah, there's a reason for that, because everybody in your neighborhood is ordering something online and expect it in an hour or so. So bear with me. You'll see more and more of that. So let's think about the stuff, the food, the manufacturing, the e-commerce, which e-commerce growth is still exponential. After COVID, it's slowed down a little bit, but it's going to be steady. And it's going to continue to grow a little over 2% per year going out to 2050. So let's think about what this really means. So if we go back to the pre-COVID world of how much things and stuff were moved on Georgia roadways. 585 million tons moved in 2019. It's hard to quantify that. 585 million tons moved across Georgia inside the boundaries, if you put the four corners on Georgia. Sort of interesting though, when you look at that freight breakdown, is people always say, well, what are you guys going to do to get all these trucks around Atlanta and out from us or wherever, right? There's only 20% of those 585 million tons that were actually through traffic. So 80% of all the tonnage is either coming into Georgia or moving into Georgia, or starts in Georgia and goes out, because we do export a lot. So we forecast into the future because we have to plan ahead, right? Transportation takes way too long. And I don't know, is anybody satisfied with how long it takes to get a transportation project done? I'm not. I haven't seen anybody raise their hand yet, except contractors say, yeah, I think we're pretty good. It takes too long, right, James?
Yes.
It takes too long. But when we look at how long it takes, we have to plan ahead. So if we look out to 2050, we know that the freight tonnage, because of stuff that we order, food that we eat, or things that we make, grows by 92%, practically doubles in 27 years. So if you think you see some trucks on the road today and some trains that are getting longer, you're going to see more trucks and longer trains in 27 years. It basically doubles the volume of things moved on our roadways. That gives you a little bit of pause, right? It's like, wow, that is thinking about that. We just did a study down in the Savannah area. Port of Savannah is wonderful. Georgia Ports Authority is not part of DOT. We work very closely with them on their projects and things outside the gate. Inside the 4 counties right around the port, there's 100 million square feet of warehouse distribution space today. If you go down there, every week you go down there, there's another warehouse popping up. In 10 years, there'll be over 200 million, practically doubles in 10 years, which is amazing. That's all that stuff that we're ordering is coming in the port or we're exporting out. So we have to look ahead and we got to have a plan. So I'm really excited, and this is like an official meeting over at this table today. And it's great to see all of them because they were in our office with Dennis not long ago, sitting down talking about the future of Troup County and what's this future look like. And we had some really good dialogue, and I really do value that conversation. Like I said, I can't figure it out sitting in Atlanta. I have to hear from each of you what's important in the county. And one thing that we decided was very important last year to embark upon was doing a county-wide transportation plan, because it had been a very long time since that had been looked at from a global planning point of view. And so I'm excited that that is underway. And what the goal of that study is to do is to really look at the transportation network improvements to address the future growth, particularly the freight travel patterns, as we know that those are going to continue to grow, and certainly what affects downtown LaGrange, right? So that's one of the big things we have to do. So working through this, we're going to look at the data collection of all the existing conditions, do traffic modeling and forecasting, sort of like a weatherman. We forecast to the best of our ability and do long-range forecasting. So that's what we're going to be working through. We set up advisory committees to include city and county and potentially many of you. We have our first meeting coming up April 17th, so right around the corner. And it's really an introduction and discussion of the goals and sort of the existing conditions of the analysis we've done. We'll have a couple of more meetings throughout the year to accomplish the mission of really coming up with what's the plan. So we will try to have some draft recommendations out this summer. That's the goal. Have advisory committee get the input, say here's some data, here's what the outputs are looking like, and really by the end of this calendar year, try to wrap it up with what is it that needs to be done from a program or from a strategy point of view, and then what projects may come out of that. So this is really informing, and the one thing I'll tell you that's really good is when you do this study, it's at our fingertips of where our director of planning, who decides what projects move forward, has the menu and the prioritization of the menu for Troup County that says these are the projects that move ahead, and here's the timetable of them to move ahead on. So really, really good work. So that is, you should feel good, because we don't do this for every county, believe it or not. This is really a good collaborative work to work and be focused in, and includes obviously the municipalities within the county as well. So that's sort of what we're planning for the future. So let me jump into what you may be experiencing right now as you move around, and we'll start over in West Point at exit 2. Got a bridge replacement upgrade project going on, and also building the roundabouts at ramps. And you got here today, most likely you went through at least 2 roundabouts, right? So you are roundabout adopters. I'm not going to ask who doesn't like a roundabout, because people don't until they use them. And then they're like, wow, this is really good. So we've seen so much promise with roundabouts. Number one, from a safety point of view. We see crashes go way down, practically go away for having roundabouts. And then they're efficient. There happens to be Kia right there. That's a huge freight movement through that interchange. It's a lot better for freight movement. They don't have to stop and hard brake and get up through the gears. The traffic flows a lot better. So we're excited about that project. It's a fairly expensive project, about $16 million to do the bridge and a couple of roundabouts, to give you some perspective. We have some work to do to shift traffic, move you around, so pay attention. It's going to be a little later in this year. And due to some other issues, we've had to extend the time into early next calendar year. But stay tuned, there's more work going on there. Again, an infrastructure investment, a state of good repair and bridges, and then safety and operations of roundabouts. So that's going on. Hamilton Rotary, long time coming. So finally glad that we're making progress, and you're beginning now to see that some of the clearing going on, some of the orange barrels showing up. The first thing it always takes is you have to move utilities. And so you see some work, you see some clearing, and like, where did they go? Well, nobody likes to have their water cut off, their gas cut off, their power cut off, and nobody really likes having their internet cut off, right? You want troubles at home, let your internet go out, right? So utility coordination is going on. Again, this project is we got a good ways to go. Its completion is actually in the fall of 2026. I'm just kidding, 2026. It takes some time to do this work, because we got to move traffic around. We basically put all new pipes in, rebuild the roads. A lot of work going on. As you head back toward Atlanta, 85 is riding a lot smoother. Thank you for your patience as we patch and grind and make 85 ride much smoother. Again, very much a state of good repair. So those are some things that you will run across that we consider progress, you may consider inconvenience. So thank you for your patience while we make progress on that. Now let's talk just a little bit about where we head. What are the things that we're working on now that you may not see tangible physical evidence of things going on? And we've got some things queued up. One is, again, state of good repair, helping the county with a bridge replacement. Actually, we'll fund this on Tucker Road at Polecat Creek. I've never been to Polecat Creek, but it sounds like it could be smelly. We actually bid that this month, so we'll receive bids coming in this month for that. We advertise it to receive bids next month. So that's coming up very soon. All right, I already mentioned roundabouts. We're going to have some more roundabouts. Talked about exit 2 at State Route 219 at Brantley Roads. There, we're going to have a roundabout. We're have right-of-way funding in this budget year. Construction funding is in calendar year 24. It's our budget year 25. About $4 million for that roundabout. Also on State Route 219 at I wish I could read my writing. Ware's Cross and Cameron Mill Road, a roundabout there. All right, somebody likes that. Funding, right-of-way funding is in calendar year, this calendar year, budget year 24, which begins in July. Construction's in budget year 25, $3.5 million. So a couple more safety operational projects. All right. The US 27 corridor, I know that's on everybody's mind. We've got a nice 4-lane that makes an abrupt 90-degree stop, right? So there's a reason for that too. The guy gave me a business card at one time that says, the difficult we do immediately, the impossible takes us slightly longer. So we're somewhere in between the difficult and the impossible. We had looked long ago, and we've had great conversation about this with the county. We looked long ago at trying to make that connection at 27 over 85. And we basically got to a point of no return that we just couldn't find a path forward through the environmental process due to the amount of wetlands, historic property, and archaeological issues that exist in that swath of land between 85 and where 27 ends. We've resurrected that in a couple of forms of trying to re-look at that and see if there's any possible activity of doing conceptual high-level work and analysis. So we're working through that now, having that conversation. I can't promise you there's an outcome that we didn't get to before, but we're working through it. So I want you to know that it's on our mind. We're trying to look for that, see what can happen there. But in the interim, we know that a path to victory that will provide relief is basically following Davis Road, or North Davis Road, up to a point. And we've got 3 projects along that area from 27 back into right at the mall. Let me just tell you about those, because we are advancing those, and this stands alone. Whether there's ultimately a connection to 85 or not, this work needs to happen based on traffic projections and the growth and everything that's going on. Especially if there's something on 85, right? Everybody goes through Hogansville and ends up on 29 and comes into LaGrange, and that happens more and more. So starting right at the mall, going out to Hogansville Highway or US 29, and we have railroad bridges we replace. About 1.5 miles of road widening there to 4-lane it. About $30 million. We have right-of-way funding ready to go in July of this year, which means we'll start the right-of-way process later this calendar year to start acquiring property along that corridor. There is a good number of parcels through there. We have construction funding as early as July of 2025 for that. Sounds like a long time off, and transportation speak, that's imminent. I mean, it's happening. So we're working on that, and that certainly provides some of that traffic relief, especially from 29 back into the mall in that area. From there, we go from 29 out to Young's Mill Road is the next project. It's about 2.5 miles. It's about $33 million for right-of-way and construction of that section. We have right-of-way funding in fiscal year 26, which is July 25 at the earliest. And then the next section is from Young's Mill cross country to take the dogleg out of 27, where it makes the abrupt dogleg. So there's going to be a cross country piece there. It actually has right-of-way funding in April of next calendar year. So the funding is there. The construction funding is in January of 2026. It's about $30 million again. Each project is about 30, 60, 90 million dollars just to do these several miles, about 10 miles of work, not even quite 10 miles. So we will have a public information meeting in May or June. We haven't quite sort of into May, maybe 1st of June this year, to reveal to the public what all this looks like. And the biggest issues we have on that section at 27 and from 27 to Young's Mill and Young's Mill back to 29 is dealing with the impacts of streams and wetlands. There's a lot of streams and wetlands in that area. We have to work through a process with the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers that show the practical alternatives, as they call it. We have to show that this, because we're building the road here, there's no other way to, nowhere else to build it that wouldn't impact wetlands and streams as much. So we're working through that process now. It is a very big process on a project like this. So when we get that approval, then we can come to the public and say, this is the public hearing for the project, gets everything moving forward. So that is quite exciting. And again, in transportation speak, it's imminent. So stay with us. It's going to take a journey. We'll build them. We're going to work both ends toward the middle, if that sort of makes sense. So if you can get the kink out of 27 to Young's Mill, you can transfer that from 29 back to the mall, which has a lot more commercial traffic on it, a lot more traffic today. It gets it there. So that's going to be a big improvement. It'll make a difference. And again, while we're doing this, we're still, again, trying to thread the needle, see what we can do from 27 to 85. It's not either or. We're looking at it all. But it's a hard lift. All right, so let me look at time. All right, we've got a few minutes. So as you sat there, your dessert has settled, your lunch is settled. Most of you are out of tea. I can see. All right, so who's charged up? All right, so people are charged up. Stuart, go put both hands up. Listen, I just want to, there you go, charge, we got a lot of folks charged up. I just want to, again, talk about a great corporate citizen as Kia is, and especially Stuart, working at the state level. And we have a lot of opportunity to interact, and we keep running into each other at the airport and stuff like that. So he's everywhere. But I'm just super excited about where Georgia is going to be the e-mobility capital of the United States with the Hyundai, Kia, Genesis announcement down in Bryan County that is going gangbusters. If you drive by there's something coming out of the ground every day. And it's a great partnership that we have for economic development. The Department of Transportation supports that growth. As a matter of fact, when this was being contemplated in another e-mobility provider, I won't mention their name while I'm in Troup County, we said we've seen this playbook before. It's exactly what we did for Kia. Building frontage roads, building a new interchange, connecting to the interchange, existing interchange. And that's exactly what we're doing in Bryan County and what we're doing over on East Atlanta mega side as well for that other vehicle producer. So it's amazing to see, because Stuart, if I understand this right, between all three entities here, Kia and West Point, Bryan County, East Atlanta mega side, we're going to be pushing out about 1 million vehicles a year when everybody's in full production. The EV9 was just announced to be made at that facility. Very popular vehicle, very nice vehicle, I might add. So it's really an exciting time. But we were sitting at the table before I came up here, and everybody's like, well, what about charging? Who's worried about charging? It's called range anxiety. We got lots of anxieties in the world. Might as well have another one, range anxiety. Well, listen, part of that bipartisan infrastructure law, the federal government is providing states, every state, a allotted amount of money, in our case, $135 million, so that we can deploy DC fast chargers, meaning that you can charge pretty quick, 30 minutes or so or less, every 50 miles along the interstates, and no more than 1 mile from the interstate. So each state is working to do that, so that range anxiety goes away. Now, you're not going to see a DC fast charger with a GDOT sticker on it. We're not in the gas dispensing business, nor do we plan to be in the electricity dispensing business either. We're going to partner with private sector who does this all the time to basically help fund these chargers as they put them at C-stores, restaurants, retail, things that make sense where you can have a good customer experience if you need to pull over and charge your car. We think about Georgia on 85 here, getting from Alabama to South Carolina, you might need a charge. You certainly need a charge from Florida to Tennessee. And we collect those gas taxes now in the state. So there was some legislation that passed this session, too, that allows for the retailing of electricity, and also that there can be a fee associated that's similar to the gas tax you pay, so that we collect those people that are traveling, that may be traveling through Georgia. One of our predecessors, going back before Vance, was a guy named Wayne Shackelford, was commissioner of Georgia DOT. You may remember him. He was sort of famous. He always had a say in our life. He said, let's figure out how to pick Yankees and not cotton. And so we need to figure out how to get funding from the people who are just passing through Georgia and not, make sure everybody's paying their fair share to use the roadways and the infrastructure that we own here in Georgia. So a lot more to come on that. We'll be working with the private sector to deploy those DC fast chargers. There is already a lot of those chargers that meet the federal requirements on the interstates. So what we're doing is filling in the gaps. We think there's 30 to 35 gaps, so that every 50 miles on the interstate, you have an opportunity to pull over and charge your car. And guess what? The EVs cars are so smart, they'll tell you where that location will and route you there so that you don't run out of electricity. Because the one thing we don't have in the back of our pickup trucks is a bucket of electricity. So think about that. All right, that's it. Thank y'all so much for your attention. I really do, and I failed to do this at the beginning. I was so excited about the great work the Rotary Club does. I want to end with this, with my sincere, heartfelt gratitude and thanks for being here, but my sincere concern of the citizens of Troup County. You have endured too much with tornadoes and storms over these last few months. And I know it's a struggle. When those things happen, it is life-changing. And I should have led with that, but we're going to close with that. And just know that DOT, we have people in the area. Obviously, there's citizens just like you that have been affected. We're here to help. Sunday morning, I get a text from the governor about, there's trees across 85. I'm like, yes, Governor, I'm aware. We're on our way. So please know our concern. Know that we're here to help. The best thing out of all this, nobody died that I'm aware of. So, but it is life changing. It's been impactful. But know as just a citizen of Georgia, my concern, and again from a GDOT point of view, know that you can count on us to help you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here, and in honor of greatest appreciation of your speaking today, we'll make a donation in your honor to Polio Plus, which is Rotary's initiative to eradicate polio worldwide. Thank you to all the visitors for being here. If you haven't spoken to one of your public servants, many in the room, and said hi, go ahead and do that today, including our own members, Willie Evans and Leon Childs. And if you've never met Stuart from the little Kia place down on exit 6, come say hi and introduce yourself. Thank you all for being here. We adjourn.
I guess the one that introduced him, Dennis, somebody. And he was, well, they're all Asian, so they wanted him to visuals. And they were just, yeah.